I'll let you know once it goes live. Well, you'll see the yellow ticker or the yellow text. There we go. We're live. Welcome to the Steampunk Star Raisin live show, episode 8. This is November 18th, 2015. And I'm here with Daniel Raisin. He's my Star Trek episode, and I'm here with Joe from the Everything Show and the Real Whovians cast.
Hi,
Anyway, what we're going to be talking about, the show will be an hour, and hold on. Bring up Microsoft Word here. Yeah, these are the topics that I have on the agenda. We can always go off topic, but this is just a basic guide, like with every episode. The first thing I'm going to talk about, I always like about a good mystery, the D.B. Cooper mystery. And the second thing I plan on talking about is new Star Trek TV series only on the internet, question mark. Third thing, new Star Trek TV series to premiere on television, but to go to CBS All Access. And the fourth thing, Star Trek Beyond Plot Studios want to make the sequels more like Zero Dark 30, which I just got through watching that, so I know what I'm talking about. And the fifth thing, my problem with Zero Dark 30. This was the reason why I didn't bother to watch it when it came out in theaters, and I just watched it on a website called Footlocker. And the last thing, the Paris attacks. I've already done a video blog about this. Anyway, starting forward with the first topic. Yeah, I've been talking about, there was a couple people who said they liked me talking about mysteries, because I was talking about mysteries at the Cecil Hotel in one of the previous episodes. But yeah, D.B. Cooper mystery, it still baffles me to this day. I love history, and I love historical mysteries even more. It's the only unsolved hijacking in the United States, and they don't even know who the guy's real identity is. He used the alias Dan Cooper when he boarded the plane, and he apparently had a fake explosive device. And he managed to get 2 parachutes and $200,000, which he apparently stuffed in one parachute, and he jumped over the border of Oregon and Washington State somewhere, and they never found him. It's largely believed that this person died, but the thing is they never really tied him to an identity. There's been family members of the supposed Dan Cooper, and the media got it wrong. They referred to him as D.B. Cooper, but he never identified himself as D.B. Cooper. He just identified himself as Dan Cooper, but that wasn't his name. He handed out notes to the with barking out demands to the crew of the plane that he had hijacked, but he was always careful to take the notes back, so they weren't able to lift any fingerprints. I think in recent years they got a partial DNA profile off the tie that he left behind on the plane, but they still weren't able to tie that partial DNA profile to anybody. And about, I think it was 1972 was when the hijacking occurred, but about 8 years later, in 1980, they found about $5,000 of cash buried in the sand on the riverbank, and it apparently washed miles downshore, and some young child found it, and they reported it to the authorities. And the FBI, before they gave Dan Cooper, or D.B. Cooper as the case is popularly referred to, the $200,000, they recorded all the serial numbers. So the interesting thing is that none of the money has ever been spent. So somewhere out there in Washington State or Oregon, there's like $195,000 if it didn't decay already. The money they found in 1980 was already tattered and in pretty bad shape. But the interesting thing is that the kid who found the $5,000 was later able to sell the money. He got the money back and was able to sell it as collector items. So people were getting it sealed, the money sealed in plastic, and even though it was like tattered and poor condition, it still had the serial number. And this is the real money from the D.B. Cooper hijacking. And the thing is that because none of the money was ever spent, it's largely believed that he died in the jump. Because he jumped at night, which is really dangerous. I don't know if any of you have been skydiving. I have.
No.
Okay.
Joe.
Yeah, I went skydiving in 2005. Yeah. I can elaborate again. Question.
What, Daniel?
David is trying to come on, but you blocked him.
Yeah,
Right.
David can come on. I don't care.
Uh, if
That's
he
what he's
comes in,
saying.
if he comes in, I have to go out. So
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
I'm not trying to create any drama. I have nothing against anybody.
yeah, I don't have anything against anybody. Just people attacking my group and my show. So
Oh no,
he's
I understand.
blocked. He's blocked, and I mean, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. But
No,
You
no,
stay here.
no.
You
That's
stay here.
fine.
Don't.
We'll just you do what you want. I'm not gonna.
yeah,
I don't work out orders with what
right,
people do or not do. If he wants to come on, he can. I have nothing against David. I mean, I know he's friends with a certain person that I have a grievance with, but I'm not gonna mention the name here because it's not
right,
worth it. But yeah, so the D.B. Cooper case, I believe, my theory, my own personal take on the D.B. Cooper case, I believe he's dead.
right.
We never know who he is. His skeleton's probably hanging in a tree somewhere, and it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Because he jumped at night, it was very windy. It was actually storming, I think. And
Odds are, like when you say like they at nighttime, the visibility is like zero in some cases, unless there's lights around. Odds are he probably did.
yeah,
Die.
when I went, my direct experience with jumping, when I went skydiving in 2005, I did a tandem jump, and I went with an instructor. And I actually wasn't wearing a parachute. I was strapped to his harness, one parachute shared with two people. And we weren't allowed to jump when it was windy. We weren't allowed
Right.
to jump when it was raining. We weren't allowed to jump at night. It's just considered
Right.
too dangerous. But, I mean, the military does do this. So some people theorize that he may have had military training. But I think for whatever reason, with a large amount of cash found in the river, I think that he ended up dying. He either
Right.
died from the fall, and that's pretty much my 2 cents worth. I will move on to the next topic unless you guys have any other words to say about this case.
I just find it very interesting that the money is just held up where nobody can spend it. That's kind of interesting.
Well,
But-
yeah, I mean, if the money, I know by federal law, actually, the D.B. Cooper case, if you would find the money, they would confiscate it for evidence, and you could apply to get it back.
Right.
But which is cool that they did let well, he's now an adult, that the little boy
Right.
who found the money, they let him sell it,
That was pretty
the
cool.
money on auction as collector's items, and people were willing to buy it even though it was in bad shape, just because it's historical artifact.
I'm
And
very interested in the Star Trek thing you're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, well, if you guys have nothing, Daniel, do you have anything else to say about D.B. Cooper? We talked about it off the air.
Yeah. It's really interesting that what happened. I mean, we don't know if he still. He may have passed away. I don't know. Maybe something happened. He jumped at night. All the money is gone. It's not gone.
He probably fell in the river, and that's probably only a portion of the money that was found. The money is probably all
Right.
rotted away by now. It's
Probably.
all money is cotton, so cotton paper. But yeah, hijacking like that wouldn't be capable today because back then they didn't do metal detectors. They didn't check for ID.
Yeah.
So today you wouldn't be able to get away with something like that. But anyway, I am going to move on to the next topic, which is Star Trek, which is Daniel's favorite topic. He's my Star Trek expert.
Yes.
Which is the new Star Trek series, only to be on the internet. And this kind of ties in with the third topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to SourceFed Nerd, which I love that channel.
Yeah, great channel.
And according to other news articles that I've read on the internet, they're only going to air the first episode of Star Trek on television. And then everything's going to be on CBS All Access. Basically, everybody wants to compete with Netflix.
Yeah, I feel it's a big mistake because it's like they're teasing us with an episode, and then they're like, oh, by the way, if you want to see the rest of this, you got to pay for this whole entire channel for like $9.99 a month just for a one TV series. Like, Star Trek should be for everyone. It shouldn't be limited to a Netflix or an All Access or any type of streaming format. It should be on CBS or it should be on a cable channel but it should not where we have to pay for our favorite shows, like in that sense. I mean, Netflix is cool because Netflix, we get to watch the episodes after a year. They air everything for free. You can watch everything, but as long as you pay a certain dollar amount. Now, if you watch, like, say, 3 or 4 movies, you get your money's worth a month. You know, so that's why I like my Netflix. But Star Trek, they're doing a big mistake, okay? And a lot of these companies are doing this. Even, AMC, they're trying to promote Into the Badlands so much that they're like, well, if you watch this show, then in the halfway point, we will show you the Walking Dead trailer. Well, I don't want to watch the show, but I want to see the Walking Dead trailer. So I don't like to be forced into watching anything, So if a company has to do that to get ratings, then I feel that show isn't worth it. And the Star Trek show really it's not fair that people have to go out and spend, $10 a month, $120 a year for this channel just to see Star Trek. I mean, we don't even know if this company that's going to have Star Trek is it worthwhile to buy this channel every month, to pay for this channel every month? Like it's like a Netflix type? I don't think so. So I think the fans are going to be against it.
Yeah, I think that doesn't fare well. I've read another article about how I can't remember the website right offhand, but I read another article about how they are eyeballing, the executives who are producing this show are eyeballing Daredevil, because Daredevil was done on a shoestring budget, but it got good reviews. But the only criticism I had with Netflix Daredevil, because I've watched the entire first season, it actually ended up being really good towards the end with the final confrontation of Daredevil and Kingpin. And I love Daredevil's new outfit with the black and the red. It looked pretty badass. It's like
fantastic series.
But there was a lot of episodes that were kind of slow in between. You could tell that it was done on a restrained budget. And I'm worried that won't fare as well for Star Trek if they try to model it after Daredevil.
The whole entire season, I didn't have a problem with one episode. I loved it. And I knew that they didn't have a lot of money to just start it out. Now that it got recognition, now that it got brick and rake records, it's going to have a bigger budget, obviously. And it's going to be, as the years go on, it's going to have a huge budget. So I'm actually ecstatic about the second season because it looks like they're really spending the money. We got the Punisher, we got Elektra, we got Luke Cage in Daredevil. And I think it's going to be fantastic. But Star Trek, I'm worried about that. Would they spend less money than they would have ordinarily done if it was on, like, say, Next Generation or Enterprise or Voyager? Would they spend less money and put it on Access? That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, that they're going to spend less money than what they spent on Enterprise because they still feel, the CBS executives, they still feel burnt.
Yeah, no good.
And so
that's their fault, though.
No, I agree, and they, they're also wanting to model it after Zero Dark 30, and I don't
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Zero Dark 30 only had one battle scene at the end of the movie, and there was like 3 torture scenes. I just got through watching it on Foot Locker, and
I think that's
I just didn't really care for the film. It was really slow and really boring, and it was like torture. No pun intended.
I think Enterprise would have worked had it been Next Generation time or after, where Archer was a captain then or something. But by the whole concept of Gene Roddenberry is seeing what the future looks like, where it's different. But to go backwards, Gene Roddenberry wouldn't go backwards. He wouldn't go backwards to show where there's prejudice, there's racism, there's all this stuff, and problems with the Vulcans. He wouldn't do that. We're so used to seeing the technology of Voyager time, Next Generation, that when they had like a rope shoot out at the ship like a grappling hook, we're like, what the hell is that? Where's the tractor beam?
I agree.
And it's like what? I mean, they did have cool storylines. They had, they had the thing with the temporal war, the, temporal Cold War, or whatever it was. But ultimately, they made the decision to crap on Enterprise, when they did the last episode that made it seem like the whole thing never really happened. It was a holodeck show that they believed
Oh yeah, a
it
lot of
happened.
fans hated the last episode. I actually had no problem with the last episode of Enterprise. I thought it was kind of emotional.
Yeah, but by you doing a holodeck recreation, they're saying that the whole show, they just guessed that this would happen because back then they didn't have stuff to record things.
Well,
They didn't have.
that's not what I got out of the last episode of Enterprise. The last episode of Enterprise, they were just, it was a farewell to Star Trek on television. There was that moving last scene where you hear Archer talking about these are the voyages, and then you hear Captain Kirk, and you see Captain Kirk's ship, or actually you see Captain Picard starting off of that speech. Then it switches to Captain Kirk's ship, then it switches to Archer's ship. Pretty much every captain that commanded an Enterprise was represented there in that final end scene, and it was really sad, really emotional. It actually brought tears to my eyes when I saw that scene because it was, and somebody's actually put that on YouTube. They just edited out that one part that they liked from the last episode because it was like a farewell to Star Trek on television, and I just viewed it as, well, because they were doing a farewell to Star Trek on television, and Next Generation was the highest. A lot of people don't realize this. Next Generation was the highest rated Star Trek. It was higher rated than the original Star Trek, and it was higher rated than any Star Trek since. And in my opinion, that's kind of where they need to go. They need to go back towards Next Generation, maybe post Nemesis or post Voyager, because we want to see.
Yeah, see, a lot of people, they purposely ended the 7th season. They didn't do any other seasons because they were doing movies.
Yeah.
It wasn't canceled. It was ended, like purposely ended. Everything
yeah, they only
was
planned to do 7 seasons. That
Right.
It did not get canceled because of low ratings.
Neither did Deep Space Nine didn't get canceled, and Voyager didn't get canceled. Voyager, because Janeway, Kate Mulgrew was doing movies with Next Generation. She did that movie, so it purposely ended. But with the case of Enterprise, that was flat out canceled.
Yeah,
and
that's true. And there is one plot thread. They never revealed who Future Guy was. I would like to know.
Right.
I hope they maybe resolve that in this new TV series. Because I think the fans deserve to know. You built up this whole temporal Cold War through Enterprise, love it or hate it. I just, I wish they would have resolved that plot thread in the last episode.
Right.
But I think what Rick Berman was trying to do, because Rick Berman didn't actually get fired until 2006. Enterprise had got canceled the year before, and he was actually in pre-production to try to do another Star Trek show.
Right.
And I think that's the reason why he never resolved that plot thread, because he was going to try to use that as material for a new show, but he ended up getting fired and having to vacate his office, sadly. And I hate that, because Rick Berman, in my opinion, I know a lot of Star Trek fans hate him, but I thought he was such a genius because he was responsible for making Next Generation so great. Rick Berman, it's sad that Enterprise kind of destroyed his career. If you look at his Internet Movie Database profile, he hasn't done anything since Enterprise. That's the last.
See, I think the problem was when they first started it off, they had a regular music as the theme. They never called it Star Trek Enterprise. They tried to make it like it was. They didn't associate it with Star Trek.
Yeah, I think it wasn't until the 3rd season that they switched the
which
title.
At that point the ratings were dropping already, and they felt, oh God, we better call this Star Trek because fans are not accepting it because we didn't accept it. So then it was a little too late because people were like, all right, now you're slapping Star Trek name on there, but it's like too late already. It's like. Certain things that they did, like when you have a show that they have great characters, like don't get me wrong, all the actors were phenomenal. I loved all the characters. But when you're trying to make your captain better than Kirk, that was against what fans wanted. Like, they tried to show that Archer was the one that encountered the Borg. They tried to show that Archer was the one that encountered the Romulans, not Kirk. And they started, people started to be like, wait a minute, man, why is this a competition? It was like Star Trek versus Star Trek. In other words,
I had no problem with that. I know there was a lot of fans who criticized it. They were like, they retconned this, they retconned that.
It was
this
kind of like
was-
starting up a Star Trek Civil War with the fans, where now
Yeah, I know a lot of fans criticized it and a lot of fans hated it, but as time has gone on, I think more people have learned to love Enterprise than hate it because they realize, wow, this was the last Star Trek on TV. And it was actual. You had the temporal Cold War that had altered the timeline, so that makes sense why everything would be skewed. And I think Rick Berman had said that this timeline with Enterprise was born out of First Contact.
Right. So in other words, it wasn't connected to Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. It was like a separate thing. You're saying?
Kinda. I mean, it was a prequel in a sense, but it left it open for anything to be possible because you had.
That's where the mistake is. That's where the mistake is because by bringing it by itself, that's why it got canceled. It wasn't part of the regular universe. It got canceled because fans were like, no. You know, fans, let me tell you something, fans are very powerful. They will end their own show if they feel that it's not being handled properly.
Well, 10 years ago, I had joined the newsletter, and I was part of the Save Enterprise petition, but CBS and Paramount didn't listen. There was a lot of people who wanted to save Enterprise. Because by the fourth season, it had gotten really good. They brought in a fan writer, which was very controversial and never been done before, a guy that was a Star Trek fan, started writing episodes, and that's where you actually got to see the Orion slave, like mafia-like organization. You'd only seen female Orions in the past, and in the fourth season of Enterprise was the first time you saw male Orions.
Right.
And you saw the whole cartel, the way they did slavery and everything like that. Those episodes were really good and really fascinating. And then the fourth season of Enterprise, Brent Spiner returned to Star Trek.
Yes.
And then there was that awesome three-part. I don't think there's ever been a three-part episode of Star Trek before that. It was an awesome three-part episode with the genetically modified superhumans from Khan's group. And that was a really good three-part episode. So season 4 was really getting good, and the ratings had actually started to tick up, but they just didn't give it a chance. Yeah. And the interesting thing about Future Guy, Rick Berman and Brianna Braga, they've both been interviewed about Future Guy, but it was never actually concluded to who he really was. Rick Berman said, he goes, well, I kind of thought that Future Guy was possibly a Romulan from the 29th century. We had never decided with the writers for sure.
Right.
Because the way they decide these plot points, they sit down with a team of writers and they'll hash it out and debate, and then they finally come to the conclusion of who this mysterious character is, and they never got to that point. But I really do hope that that was the disrespect that I felt with J.J. Abrams. You know, he had no continuity, no sense of connection with Next Generation. When he did this reboot, this new Star Trek, Spock Prime could have come from a different parallel universe. That's my theory, actually, is that Spock Prime comes from a different Spock Prime universe, because that would explain why the Klingons look so radically different, and that would explain why the Romulans look so radically different. But, you haven't really said anything. I don't mean to dominate the discussion. What do you have anything to say about this? This is your favorite topic, man.
Yeah. First of all, I hope the show would have a normal, decent budget. You know, I hope it won't. I hope that they don't do this on purpose to lower the budget, because, my God, you can do so much nowadays. Normal TV budget than you could do back in 2005. Okay, it's like, so I hope that the budget.
Yeah, but I hope that the business model for a streaming-only show is going to have a reduced audience, because it's only going to be people who subscribe, just like Netflix, and that's like Daredevil's done on a shoestring budget. They did a good job with what little they did. Jessica Jones, which I've only seen the 2 trailers, is also done on a shoestring budget. But that should be interesting. That David said.
Yeah, and putting it post Romulus destruction, you got a lot of. Like the action is it's going to probably be a little bit more intense there, because you got a bunch of Romulans and Remans without a home. They're probably pretty angry. They're probably going to cause a lot of trouble. Who knows what they're going to do? So they might have to do something about that. So yeah, the chances, and the story is going to be probably pretty good there.
Oh, we
what I
got
want to
one
see.
live viewer. Welcome, whoever you are. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Daniel. It's rare that I have a live viewer, but there's one live viewer. If you want to say hi in the text, feel free to do so. But welcome.
And,
Anyway, so go ahead, go ahead, Daniel.
I posted my story idea for a new Star Trek series, and I got a lot of people saying that my idea is pretty good. And yeah, it's pretty good, and I hope they'll do something like that. You know,
Well,
and
go ahead. Go ahead, Daniel. I
I
didn't mean
hear.
to interrupt. Go ahead.
I also hear that since Alex Kurtzman's on board, there's going to be probably more action. It's going to be more like JJ Trek, which I love it. I definitely think that we have to go towards JJ Trek because, after all, love it or hate it, it's successful. It makes money. It's popular.
Well, I agree. I can't remember her name right offhand. The host is CNET. So I've done research on this topic. That's also why I like spacing out the episodes. It gives me time to do research. But the host of CNET, I agree with her phrase where she said, come on, CBS, let's make this more like Next Generation and less like Enterprise. And
No,
I
I
think
disagree.
that's the key. You did? Well, I respect your opinion.
I disagree. I say make it more like Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine had good drama, good action. I loved it. It was a darker Star Trek than it was the opposite of TNG. It was a darker, grittier Star Trek. It was awesome. I loved it. And by the way, I was so pissed off at this girl, the woman from CNET. I ripped her a new asshole. I ripped her to shreds. I said, "You want it to be more like TV?" And I just ripped her to pieces.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind it being like Next Generation. I thought that if Next Generation wasn't successful, there would be no Deep Space Nine. I mean, the only reason Deep Space Nine was created was based on the success of Next Generation. So, if Next Generation didn't pave the way, we wouldn't have had anything. So you got to respect your elders in a sense. And again, we have Next Generation movies, but we don't have Deep Space Nine movies. We have people in Voyager in Next Generation movies, but we didn't have anybody from Deep Space Nine. So I love Deep Space Nine, don't get me wrong, but my favorite was Next Generation of that time. So I wouldn't mind it at all if they just continued in that vein.
Yeah, but it would just be a bunch of talking. TNG was a bunch of talking.
I don't really see it as. I never really saw Next Generation as a bunch of talking. I mean, we had a lot of action going on, and we had our share of action. I mean, Deep Space Nine had a lot of talking too, just like Next Generation. But I mean, a lot of debates, discussions about what they're going to do against the Cardassians, the Jem'Hadar, or what they're going to do with the wormhole. I mean, there's going to be talking no matter what. But and there was a lot of a lot of talking about with Bajor and the Chosen One and the whole thing with Cisco and stuff like that. So again, I would really love it if they just continued from Next Generation. That would be fine with me.
Yeah, but there was a lot more action in the other series. You gotta admit, a lot more. Like I just hope that there's gonna be even more in this new one. I mean, it has to be. The threats are piling up. We got the Romulans, the Remans, pretty pissed off that they lost their home. We probably got people. We probably got new threats from the Delta Quadrant that arrived. They probably followed.
I do want to add something when Daniel, you said about the JJ universe, as you call it. We almost lost Star Trek because of the JJ universe because again, they considered Into Darkness a failure. And it was only because of the foreign markets, meaning people that have never seen Star Trek before, overseas, that kind of made Paramount make the decision. Okay, we have an anniversary coming up. We're going to take a risk, and we're just going to be a charity and give them money to make another movie. Otherwise, the fans basically closed the coffin on Star Trek Into Darkness. They were done with what J.J. Abrams was doing. I mean, while they liked the first movie, I guess, some of them, everybody hated, mostly everybody hated Into Darkness. So once they got reassurance that that wasn't going to happen again and nothing related to that was going to happen with Star Trek Beyond, is when the company was so comfortable with Star Trek Beyond that they actually signed the actors for the next Star Trek after that. So, again, J.J. Abrams is not a part of the third one. And I'm not saying that if he was, it would be terrible. I think that lying to the fans about Khan and doing that was a disrespect and pissed people off. And I don't think he would do that again, mind you. I would like to see a J.J. Abrams movie again with Star Trek, but I think he learned his lesson in that case.
Exactly. But like, see, like, okay, again, Paramount, CBS, if you're listening to me, this is the reason why it failed. Okay, regardless of what other people may say, you can do a dark and gritty Star Trek. You can do a terrorism thing in Star Trek. You did that with Nero. You did that with you destroyed Vulcan. You did a 9/11 thing with Vulcan.
After the Paris attacks, I really don't think anybody's going to be doing any terrorism thing, especially in Star Trek. We got episodes that are being pulled like Supergirl, and episodes that are being pulled from other shows that are related to some type of attack. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right now they're not going to do anything that's going to involve any type of terrorism. They already made announcements everywhere. I mean, this Supergirl episode that they have, hopefully we actually get to see it. There's other shows like, that's based on something to do with terrorism that they're actually not even going to air. So right now, that's, the real world, that's what's happening. ISIS and Paris and all that, they will not go anywhere near that. So Daniel, take that off the table because they already made announcements everywhere. CBS does Supergirl, and CBS is doing Star Trek. So if they're not going to air Supergirl, they're not going to air a Star Trek terrorist type of thing.
Well, they did it. They did it with the first one. It succeeded. But the only reason why the second one didn't succeed was because they redid the Wrath of Khan. We should have learned our lesson from Nemesis.
Right. Well,
if it was somebody else, sorry.
Yeah,
we could have dark Star Trek. We could have like war and villains and everything, but as far as like, showing the on Earth with buildings collapsing and everything, I mean, you could have space battles, absolutely. That could be dark Star Trek, but not terrorism aspect of it.
I think what sums up my problem with the last two Star Trek films is a sentence that Abrams is famous for saying. He was like, I wasn't a fan of Star Trek, but I wanted to make it into something I liked. And that sums up the problem right there.
Yeah. Well, and that's what got him the job for Star Wars.
But that's why the first Star Trek movie was so good. He said, I didn't like Star Trek, but I wanted to turn it into something that I liked. That was why the first movie was good. And this is perfect.
I'll say the first movie was entertaining, but in my opinion, it wasn't good. I mean, like, I recently went to Kamikaze, and I went to one of the Star Trek fan booths, and these were people dressed up in Next Generation uniforms, and when they hated Star Trek Into Darkness so much, they started hating the 2009 Star Trek, because they started equating that with the first one.
That's a problem.
It's a real problem, and he did a mockery with Star Trek, and unfortunately, he's still the executive producer for Star Trek Beyond, and he's still the executive producer for Star Trek 4, which is in pre-production.
Right.
So I won't really feel happy until he vacates his Star Trek slot. I mean, and a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this. Bring back Rick Berman. I have nothing against Rick Berman.
I say go ahead. Yeah, why not?
No, please, not Rick Berman. No.
He was handpicked. He was handpicked by Gene Roddenberry to be his successor.
That's why I don't want him. He's going to want to do it probably more like Roddenberry, and I'm like, Roddenberry. You know what? A friend of mine once said. I'm not going to name names here, but it was a friend of ours. I was talking to this guy.
Well, why don't you just say his first name?
Trey.
That's fine, Daniel. Go ahead. Say what you want. You don't have to feel pressure.
I asked him, what would you do? Okay, if you heard people complain about the movie, you say, that's not Roddenberry, and like what would you say? Well, if you put ideas online like I did, and like people really blast me, and they're like for example, I copied and pasted this idea, from a forum. This isn't my idea. I copied and pasted it. It was a good idea for a new series. It involved the Klingons invading our solar system. You know, they kind of obliterated the Earth, and the remnants of Starfleet are looking for a new home. You know, they're looking for a new home. They're defending. They got to defend themselves against threats while looking for a new home. And you know, a lot of people like that idea, and some just blast me and go, "You don't understand Star Trek. That's not Star Trek."
I don't blast
And
you,
I'm
Daniel, even though I disagree with you. Even though
I don't
disagree
blame you
with
either. I could disagree
Yeah.
too.
No, I know. But I'm saying there are people out there. There are people out there who are very nice. Like tonight, there was like a person who was very nice to me, and he liked my ideas. And there are others who really are very kind of like, they just blast me for my ideas. And I'm like, whoa.
I feel you, man, but I'm like I told you off air. I mean, if you look at it from even a business perspective, Next Generation got the highest ratings for any Star Trek TV series. It got even higher ratings than the original Star Trek, and so that was the high watermark for Star Trek was Next Generation, and I kind of feel like they need to return to that, just because I think it's better quality entertainment and it's more Star Trek-like, and it also would work for a business perspective because you got people on CNET saying the same thing. Let's return to more Next Generation-like characters.
And when you go to conventions yourself, you said it yourself.
Yeah.
The overall consensus is return to Next Generation.
Oh my God, no! Please go to DS9, man. Go to DS9, please. I love that show.
Yeah, DS9 was good too. I just didn't like it as much as Next Generation. I like DS9.
I liked it because, like, DS9, those people were more prone to using violence to solve their problems. That's why DS9 was more realistic. I love that show. You know, you had Cisco blowing up ships. He didn't care. He wasn't a diplomatic guy. He just like, you screw with me, fuck you. I'm going to blow you up.
Well, let me counter. You already know my counter argument, but I'll say it for the show. Let me counter your argument with this. We've evolved over time. I mean, people used to take a crap in outhouses. People used to dump urine from buckets into the street because they didn't have indoor plumbing. People used to burn people at the stake for being witches. They used to hang people for being witches. We've evolved. We don't do crude things like that anymore. We still do some crude things, and we can continue to evolve. And I want to see a future like the 24th century, and I think most people do, where it's a utopian society where we solve the problems of poverty and war, and we unite. And I think that's what people want. They want a little bit of action. They want intellectual humor or intellectual entertainment, and a little bit of action thrown in. You know, Star Trek was never meant to be Star Wars.
Bullshit. A little bit of action? No. A lot. Not a little. CBS, ignore these people. Go for the new Star Trek fans. The new Star Trek fans know what they're talking about. And like my friend Trey says, I told him, what would you say to these people? These people go, that's not Roddenberry, that's not Roddenberry. He told me, well, Roddenberry's dead. It's time to move on.
Well, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but I respectfully disagree. And if they go to a Zero Dark 30, because I wanted to figure out what they meant by we want to make it more like Zero Dark 30, and I was like, oh, they only had like one action scene really at the end of the movie and maybe 3 torture scenes or minor action scenes, and it was mostly drama building up to this one epic action scene where Osama bin Laden gets killed. And, you know, so that's probably the formula going to go. It's not going to be as much action as Deep Space Nine because action scenes cost money. And
and without a budget, you're not going to be having action scenes really that much.
That's
so they're going to have to focus more on story and intellectual entertainment. And I think that's what people want.
I have a question for you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Okay. Say they say that the new show is basically a continuation of Next Generation. Would you watch it?
I would get it, but I don't have CBS online, and I hope it comes on DVD.
So if it was like Next Generation Part 2, you would watch it?
Well, I'm hungry. I'll take anything, you know?
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fair.
All right. Well, and this will tie up my Star Trek topic. I'm going to move on to the next topic since I started talking about Zero Dark 30. My problem with that film is, I mean, the Young Turks had criticized it when it first came out in 2012, but my problem with that film is it just seemed like a 2-hour CIA propaganda film. And it was, the torture scenes were painful to watch because they were done realistically, but I know that much, much worse was done than what was shown in the movie. And the movie tries to correlate, this is how we caught Osama bin Laden, was we tortured all these people. Well, that's actually not true. And what I have read, there was even advisors from the CIA who were even involved in production of this film. So they got to tell the story the way they wanted to tell. And if you know the history of the CIA, they're a very corrupt organization. You know, and Eisenhower, 1961, warned us against militarization and how wars will beget more wars. And so I had a real problem with Zero Dark 30. I thought the movie sucked. I mean, it was interesting from a historical point of view because I know it did very well at the box office. And then there was a mentally handicapped man who actually got killed watching the movie because he liked the movie so much that he sat in for 2 movies, and then there was an undercover cop who was like, I'm going to bust you because you didn't pay for a movie ticket. And he was mentally retarded and didn't understand, and he got killed watching the movie. So I remember that. So that actually made the news and maybe even sold more movie tickets, as messed up as that is. But because of that news story. But the I just didn't care for it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it about a 3. I mean, it was technically well done. I understand the objective that they were going at, you know, to paint the CIA in a good light. You know, I'm such a dedicated soldier. I'm getting redemption, and I'm putting my hand over the body of bin Laden, and it just felt like a propaganda piece to me. Anyway, you guys have any viewpoint on that? You can disagree with me. I respect your opinion.
I never really saw the movie.
Oh, you
I
never
gave
saw
you
the
the link.
movie?
I can't really comment on it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Daniel. Yeah, Daniel's the one that gave me the link to watch it. So you've seen the movie, Daniel. What's your opinion of the movie?
I didn't see it all completely. I got to the part where, I got to the part where Meryl Streep and that red-haired girl were drinking wine in the restaurant, and then I kind of paused it because, you know.
Yeah, the red-haired actress, she became famous because of that movie. I can't remember her name. I'll look her up real quick. She's pretty hot. I will say that. They picked somebody who was beautiful that you can relate to, you know. But she was one of the CIA interrogators.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of.
And they tried to be dark and gritty, but to me, it still came off as a propaganda piece.
Yeah. Did you feel sorry for that guy that they were torturing?
Yeah, I did feel sorry for the guy that they were torturing in the beginning of the movie, and then he was like, "Well, you know, perhaps my partner can check out your private parts." And he takes his pants off, and then she's like staring at his crotch, and it just shows. But then they say, well, you know, but this is the horrible person, so he deserves it. And I was like, no, nobody deserves that. I don't care how many horrible things you've done. You can't become the monster to beat the monster. You become the monster to beat the monster, and what's the point? You're the monster that you're trying to beat. Jessica Chastain. Yeah, Jessica Chastain. She was also in The Martian. Jessica Chastain. She played one of the lead characters in Zero Dark 30. She was the CIA op who found Osama bin Laden. She's also the she was a co-star in the movie The Martian. Yeah, she's pretty hot. She's pretty smoking hot. I have a thing for redheads. I would definitely tap that. Anyway, enough said about Jessica. Anyway, if you guys don't have anything else to add about Zero Dark 30, I will move on to the next topic.
Also, you know what? I gotta say, it's exciting because the president of Paramount said it would be interesting to see the SEAL Team 6 of the Star Trek universe. So yeah, I mean, what he said, SEAL Team 6, like SEAL.
Well, I'm
It's
not
like,
back into Star Trek. Yeah, I'm not that optimistic because
yeah,
they got the same
you know,
production team that worked with Abrams doing this Star Trek TV series, and they were already undercutting it by making it a streaming-only show. So I'm not optimistic. I mean, I will be open-minded, and I would probably watch the first episode since it's going to be available on TV. Maybe I could find it somewhere I can stream it. But
I hope it's on Foot Locker.
I'm just not that. I'm not that optimistic with the way they're handling it. I'm not. I'm not liking. I don't like what I hear. But if we're done talking about Zero Dark 30, I would like to talk about the next topic, which is the Paris attacks, which were horrible, of course. But I have my own take on it. Which, if any of you've seen my last video blog, you know what my take is on the Paris attacks.
I didn't get to see it yet, but maybe
Oh,
you could
okay.
like, briefly elaborate.
I'll briefly elaborate and I'll let you guys counter comment. The thing I worry about, you know, I saw people on Facebook doing like the French flag colors over their photo.
Yeah.
They photoshopped it. I stand with France.
Right.
Which is all cool and everything, and I don't, you know.
I did that. I was one of them.
Yeah, there was 130 people that died, and that's horrible. And I don't support or condone any terrorism at all. I just worry that this is going to drum up nationalism, and we already have a very sticky situation in the Middle East. If you understand the mechanics of the Middle East, I really worry it could start World War III. Because
see, I was going to do a topic wonders when this happened, and then I felt it was such a sensitive subject, and it was really, I didn't feel it was right to do that. So I'm not doing any shows on it.
I like. Yeah, that's fine. I can respect that. I like to do.
But I mean, now it's days after. And people, you know, we're doing podcasts about it. But I honestly think that it's a disgusting thing that happened. But you know, it's not just Paris, though. I mean, the day before, Baghdad people died in Baghdad. You know, it was attack in Baghdad. Nobody made a big thing about that. There was attack in Iraq. There's attack in all these other different places. But it seemed like the media just swarmed to this subject. You know,
well,
I mean, yeah.
The messy mechanics of the situation is now you got France involved, and they said that they're going to go to war with ISIS.
Right.
And you got Russia on one side. You got multiple sides in this war front, and there's hidden alliances that most people in the public are not aware of. Right? I do a lot of research. And
I think we should be more
also an independent journalist. But the reason why it could evolve into World War III is we've already got Cold War-like tension with Russia. Russia has naval infantry, which is the Russian equivalent of Marines, in Syria. They have a naval base on the Mediterranean in Syria, which most people are not even aware of. Just go to Russia Today's channel, you'll see they're showing off their naval base and their ships in the Mediterranean. And so they're backing the Assad regime, which is a secular government, although it is a brutal dictatorship. But then the United States is backing some of the rebels, but then a lot of the equipment that the United States drops ends up in the hands of ISIS. So ISIS has Humvees and a lot of good U.S. equipment.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's just making a messy situation worse. And now the United States is going to be putting boots on the ground in Syria. What happens when they encounter Russian troops? Are we going to go to war with Russia?
We should be united with Russia, and we should be united with, you know, France. And we should go against ISIS.
I disagree with the John Kerry State Department of Obama saying, like, we want Russia out of Syria. And then they're trying to label, like, Russia's bombing innocent civilians, and they're bombing moderate, you know, rebels, which I hear on Fox News and CNN through their websites. And they're drumming up this, like, anti-Russia sentiment, like we want Russia out of Syria, but they're already there. I had no problem with them being there.
Russia's not the threat. ISIS is the threat.
No, I agree.
That's basically what the enemy is. I mean, we're not going to go against Russia and start World War III with Russia and all these other places because of ISIS.
Here's where it could get messy. It's U.S. versus Russia and Ukraine. You got Russia backing Ukrainian rebels, and the United States equips and backs the Ukrainian government. That civil war is still ongoing. There was a whole passenger plane that got shot down by a Russian SAM missile over Ukraine about a year ago, somewhere around.
Yeah, but I think everybody's agreeing that they would all team up against ISIS.
Yeah, that's true. And you
So
have a
that's what
competitor.
we need to do. You need to get rid of ISIS. And
No,
then
I agree.
whatever
I don't
other
like
differences you have, okay, talk about it. But that's that. Listen, they reached, they reached Paris, and where are they going to go next?
Well, I mean, that's true. I mean, there was 130 people that got killed. There was car bombings, suicide bombings, and gunmen that did shooting. And the last I heard, there were some people that they had caught. They were held up in the house.
And if you
I
come
had
to New
checked
York, there's going to be thousands. So, I mean,
Yeah, I
if you
mean,
go to any other city, it's going to be like, it's going to
the thing I worry about is overreaction. I feel like that it's a criminal act. It should be treated like a criminal act. We've already did overreaction in the United States. I shouldn't say we. I don't speak for the government. The United States did overreaction in Iraq, and look what a mess that created.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be? Here's the thing: do you really want to overreact, or do you want them to like hit us? I mean, here's the thing: you gotta be a little worried when they're gonna attack.
Well, the politics of fear, there's always going to be a reason. Politics of fear, if you lose your way of living and your way of life, you become a police state and you attack everybody across the globe. I mean, North Korea rattles their sword and they have nukes. They've got weapons of mass destruction. Why does the United States go to war with North Korea? Oh, that's right, because North Korea doesn't have any natural resources.
Well, here's the thing: nobody really wants to go to war.
Well, it's like the United States has been in perpetual war for 14 years. Since 9/11, we still have troops in Afghanistan, the United States does, and there's still troops in Iraq, and now they're putting troops in Syria, and it's just the war is expanding, it's never ending, no end in sight. The last time that the United States had been that long at war, we've been in war with Vietnam. Vietnam was 10 years, from 1965 to 1975. And it kind of reminds me in some ways of the Empire of Japan. A lot of people forget that right before World War II, the Empire of Japan had been at war constantly since 1931. And Japan had invaded Korea in 1931, they invaded Manchuria, they invaded parts of China, took most of China's ports, and they invaded Saipan. And the reason why Japan invaded Asia and started a global conflict, which actually the precursor to World War II, which started in 1931, was because they were short on resources. They needed oil and they needed rubber. Because a lot of those trucks and aircraft carriers that carry planes, they need rubber, and so that's what I'm worried about. Is you got competing powers, and there's also a rival alliance to NATO. It's not Warsaw Pact, because Warsaw Pact is of course defunct, but it's a Warsaw Pact-like organization. Oh, I might have.
I muted Daniel because the echo, we couldn't hear you right.
Oh,
and
okay.
Daniel was accidentally echoing you for some reason, so I muted Daniel. Yeah, sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, so you have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which I've researched online, and that's the military alliance between China and Russia. And they meet in Shanghai once a year, and Chinese troops train with Russian troops. Putin used to be a colonel in the KGB, and he's done a very good job of rebuilding his military back up. And I think we should make a compromise with Russia and fight together with ISIS. But I think the one thing I'm worried about is that we're not doing that. That's what I'm worried about. Do you have anything else to add, Daniel or Joe?
I'll let Daniel go first.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should really join Russia. I think we should join Russia in fighting ISIS. Also, I heard that they're going to carpet bomb ISIS after the Paris attacks. They're going to. I don't know who's going to do it, but they're going to carpet bomb ISIS after this. And they're in some pretty deep crap after this.
The problem with carpet bombing is I think they carpet bombed Dresden during World War II. You end up killing a lot of civilians. You're breaking up, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel, you're echoing everybody.
Hey, Daniel, can you leave? Can you leave and come back? You're echoing pretty bad.
Yeah.
Leave and come back, or well, he's got himself on mute. But
Right.
yeah, we got minutes left in the cast. Okay, I guess Daniel will come back.
He'll
Or just
come back. Yeah.
do
How
you have
many more
anything else to
minutes?
add? Any other insight? Any you can criticize me. I'm not going to take
How many?
that back.
How many minutes you have left?
6 minutes.
Yeah, I basically think that we need to be more involved with the situation. It's a very delicate situation. I don't think we should be going. The main focus is ISIS. They should focus on ISIS. They should have like a NATO type of thing, like everybody involved. A joint task force that just all nations team up and go against a common threat. And I think that's what should happen, basically.
No, I agree, but I unfortunately don't think that's happening because, from what I understand,
It's not happening yet.
The United States is still pushing to remove Assad from power, but Russia is pretty behind. They're behind Assad. They don't want him to leave power because they've got a lot of trade agreements with Assad, and
Yeah, I mean,
Russia's back. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, look. Honestly, we need to have more involvement, I think, in what's going on, rather than just watch everybody attack everybody. I mean, like, we need to. Obama really needs to step in there and see what we're going to do to help Paris and Russia against ISIS, because ultimately that it's going to be a threat to the world. So
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't.
we can't not do nothing. I mean, we can't
Well,
just.
no,
Yeah.
I say treat it like a criminal attack. I mean, in the United States, 30,000 people a year die from gunshots.
Yeah.
So do you declare war on guns, or do you?
No, but
You
see,
know,
the thing is, these people, they don't care who they kill. They torture people, they kill people, they just. For
Yeah,
what purpose?
I also worry that it might push xenophobia. Because you can't sit there and say that everybody who is. I'm a neutral point of view because I have no religion. But you
Right.
can't sit there and say that just because you're Muslim, you're a terrorist, and that's what I hear some people in the United
Right.
States always saying. But you can't. There's extremists in every religious group. I mean, the Nazis were Christians, and they
Are there extremist atheists?
There could be, there can be. I mean, some people would argue that Stalin was an extremist atheist,
Mm.
but Stalin, he was almost like a Stalinist in religion. He was
Right.
not like really a true atheist. He had a state worshiping himself.
Right.
But that's a whole different topic for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just worry about xenophobia, and I worry about creating a global mess. You got Russia, and if we're trying to, say, Assad, you need to leave and step down from power, but Russia doesn't want to give up their naval base. That's a pretty strategic naval base in the Mediterranean. And Russia has troops manning Syrian anti-aircraft defenses. They've got training cadre troops on the ground training the Syrian army. It's the reason why Assad's army is still around. If it wasn't for Russia backing him, he would have fallen from power a long time ago. That's the reason why Gaddafi fell from power really quickly, because he was isolated. He had no foreign allies.
Right.
But I just worry about that. Hopefully they'll come, Obama will step up to the plate and make an agreement with Russia. But there is tension between Russia because, like, a year ago, they almost shot down a U.S. spy plane. And the spy plane had to fly, I don't know if you remember that, the spy plane had to fly illegally into Swedish airspace to avoid getting shot down by Russian fighter jets. And I was like, wow, this is a Cold War all over again.
Right.
And so that's what I'm worried about. And there's a lot of, beating of the drums in a lot of corporate media, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, about how the new Cold War has started all over again. And I don't think that's a good thing to be promoting.
Yeah, you don't need to promote that.
We've got 3 minutes left. Does anybody else have anything to add? Daniel, you just came back. Do you have anything else to add about the Paris attacks?
Just nothing. It's just like really, what happened is like really terrible, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna end ISIS after this.
Oh, my apologies. Actually, we only got 1 minute left. Okay. So I am getting end on that note because it usually takes like a few seconds for the broadcast to stop. But thanks for joining me, Joe, and thanks for joining me,
Thank you.
Daniel. This is
Yeah.
Steampunk Star Raisin out. You have a nice day, and I will see you 25 billion years. I will.